to Fantasy Fiction Focus once again. Our guest today is Sherry Peters, who we're talking to in Winnipeg. Hello there.
Hello, Simon. Hi, everybody.
She's saying hello to everybody. She thinks we have an audience, which is great. But now you are you're the author of some what I would refer to as fantasy author, but fantasy with a difference, I think, because about the adventures of a dwarf, but not your typical who fights orcs and things in Lord of the Rings, and not the floppy bunny lost in the woods type dwarf either. Tell us a little bit about these books about Mabel.
Sure. Well, the first book is Mabel the Lovelorn Dwarf, and I guess when I started writing it, I like to refer to it as she was the Bridget Jones of Middle Earth. Really, I mean, I play on the tropes of the fantasy with the dwarf and the elf conflict and the mining and, but it's, I like to play at the ridiculousness of it. So, they mine emeralds and diamonds and rubies and sapphires all in the same mountain, which, physically is not possible, but it is in my fantasy world. And, they watch movies, but recorded on wizard's crystals. And really it's about Mabel, who is trying to find love and trying to find herself and what it means. And I found using the dwarf trope of a female dwarf with a beard just really allowed me to play with that a whole lot. And so, in the first book, she's looking for love and she can't figure it out, and she's expected to get married and have lots of dwarflings, but she's in love with an elf. So, there's that forbidden love aspect to it as well. And the conflict that goes along with that as well as family strife.
Now, you mentioned Middle Earth, so this is inspired by the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit books and set in that world, is it?
I would say it's inspired in part by Lord of the Rings, in part by Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's inspired more so by the appendices in Lord of the Rings, just about the information about dwarves and elves. And the actor commentary from the movies, I would say, how they constantly teased Orlando Bloom, how he was the pretty elf who doesn't get dirty, but also there's the general tropes about the beautiful elf girl who all the boys fall in love with, and I thought, well, why can't that be an elf boy? And I was, at the time when I first started writing Mabel, I was at a workshop, and the instructor said, why are there never any books about female dwarves? And I kind of took that up as a challenge and just trying to figure out for myself, what would life be like for a female dwarf growing up in that kind of with that kind of a social structure, but making it my own.
Yeah, so yes, I must admit I've never seen a book about a female dwarf before either. So I mean, it's quite new now. When did this come out? The first one, the Lovelorn Dwarf, came out. That was the first one. When did that come out?
That one came out in 2014, August of 2014.
And there's another one as well, isn't there, with the same character?
Yeah, the second one is Mabel the Mafioso Dwarf, which came out this past June. She gets mixed up with the Elven Mafia.
Good Lord, it sounds a bit dangerous. Now, this is a children's book or a young adult?
Young adult, yeah.
And you've got the Elven Mafia in a young adult book. Well, why not?
Well, sure, why not? S.E. Hinton wrote about gang warfare. I read Godfather when I was a teenager. Why not? I would not say it's as violent as The Godfather. But yeah, why not?
So you've always been interested by the sound of things in sort of fantasy and this particular type of fantasy anyway, the sort of elves and dwarves and things like that. So when it came out, 2014? So when was it, how long did it take to write it? Come up with the whole world and everything?
Well, I started writing about Mabel back in 2005, so it would be 10 years now. And that was when I started at that workshop, the Odyssey Writing Workshop. And so I started writing some short stories about it. about Mabel. And then in 2007, I attended the Seton Hill University, taking their master's in writing popular fiction. And it ended up being that Mabel was my thesis novel. The program is to come up with a publishable novel. And originally I was going to do a series of short stories, collection of short stories, and that just wasn't working well. So I ended up making her into a novel and shelved it for a while after I graduated in 2009. And then about 2013, I pulled it back out and did some revisions and decided to publish it.
Now, you decided to publish it, so this is a self-published, well, both of them are self-published.
It is. Both of them are self-published. I will say that Mabel did go the rounds of submissions for a few years.
Yes, I was going to ask that, because some people are going straight to self-publishing, and some people are doing that after they tried to get it traditionally published. Okay. So is there a whole series of books about Mabel then? Are we going to see a lot more?
Absolutely. I have for sure one, possibly two, probably more that will come. Yeah. I absolutely adore Mabel. And especially in the second book, she grew so much. And I just love her and her world, and she has such a resilience that I love. I mean, I wrote Mabel originally. The first short story I wrote ever about her was for myself. I actually never imagined it being YA, because I started it when I was 7, and I wanted to do it for myself. And I thought, there's still plenty of adult women who still can relate to the search to try and find yourself, especially in our late 20s, early 30s, when things don't go specifically as planned, in terms of getting married and having kids, or the house, or whatever it is. There's expectations, and I think everybody can relate, really, because there's expectations put on all of us. And when we don't quite fit in, it's really trying to find ourselves and being okay with who we are if we don't fit the norms.
So is Mabel based on anyone that you know, or is there elements of yourself in Mabel?
There's definitely a lot of elements of myself in Mabel. In some of her situations, some of her attitudes are definitely me. Some of the other characters are composites of other people that I've known. She didn't hear that from me. And others are just, and most of it's just, she'd be someone I'd probably want to hang out with. And as a writer, I like to have imaginary friends, so I've added another one.
So you see, I understand that you're going to be with time. Oh, that's sort of. So are you going to be doing books about other subjects, other characters, or are you going to stick with the Mabel universe?
Actually, I'm working right now on another novel set in Northern Ireland, and it's a contemporary urban fantasy, as they tend to be. I lived in Belfast, Northern Ireland for a year, and that stuck with me for, well, it still has. It's still one of my passions. I love that place. And so I wanted to set my next series of novels there. Creating a character who's, again, she's about 16, but who is caught between the two different worlds, the Fae and the humans, and the Fae who have caused the troubles in Northern Ireland, stirred up the trouble of political conflict for their own gain. And turns out she's one of them, but she was made human, so she's like a changeling. And so she's caught between those two worlds. And I'm very passionate about politics, the underdog, and so and certainly where I was living in Northern Ireland, it was right at a flashpoint in Belfast, and where I worked with people who were victims of the Troubles at Wave Trauma Center, and so that certainly inspires a lot. And the resilience of the people I worked with it still just touches my heart every day. worked with the families of the disappeared. And for those people who don't know, the IRA, over 40 years, the Irish Republican Army would occasionally snatch one of their own for various reasons that they called was disciplinary and deny it. And they're still trying to find the bodies. And they've been searching. They just found 2 more this last summer. And, I got to work with some of the families. And so to be able to tell their story and how they've been affected by all of this is something that is near and dear to me as well. So, and even with Mabel, I try to put in social commentary, some political commentary. I will say that one of my rejections came that it was a bit racist. And I said, no, actually it's speciesist, because dwarves and elves don't like each other. But it's not really, because yes, there is that element there, but it's really about acceptance and tolerance and accepting everybody. And that's something that Mabel learns and tries to teach her family about. Whether she's successful or not isn't necessarily the case, but it's something that I'm passionate about, politics, social comment in my fiction.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that sort of thing in fiction at all. I think it gets into a lot of our work out, like things we've seen in the news or things we've grown up with. And I think in things like Star Trek, there are races in parts of the galaxy who don't get along. I don't think anyone would call it. Maybe yes, speciesist. The Klingons don't get along. It's a feature of the universe.
Exactly.
Things are. Even in the real world, next door neighbours don't get along with each other because they're disputing the parking space. It's just human. It's the way the world is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, will you be working on the other story? Would you be finishing your time with Mabel before you start the other one, or will you work at the same time?
I'm actually taking a little bit of a break from Mabel, so I'm working on this other novel now. And then once I finish that in the next few months, I'm going to get back to Mabel. Right now I'm doing some research for the 3rd Mabel book. She's going to take on their world version of Hollywood executives. She's taking on the movie industry.
Oh, don't tell us too much. Don't tell any spoilers about that.
That's all I can tell you, because that's all I know right now.
Now, you, of course, I know you have a website and everything, and obviously marketing, your Facebook and all that stuff. And you were at When Words Collide, of course, in Calgary, in Albany. So are you doing a lot of marketing and stuff for the books, for the main books? I'm getting into a few schools to do some school visits, and I'm always open to do more. Basically right now, mostly my promotion is just online through my website, social media, mostly Facebook and Instagram, although I am on Twitter as well. So right now, that's mostly where my focus is. I figure once I have books 3 and 4 out, I'm starting to step up my promotion a little bit for it, but once I have books 3 and 4 out, then I want to do a lot more. Now, you mentioned in there, just curious there about schools. I've done schools before in the past, and lots of people go to schools and have to talk about the craft of writing and inspiration. Are schools inviting you because of they're interested in that, or because they're interested in a fairy tale type world, or because they're actually getting the message you have about being relevant to people's lives in the real world?
It's about the message. It's about the message. And on my website, I do have study guide questions for teachers that point in that direction as well.
That's a good idea, study guide. I've toyed with that myself, but I've never been able to give it much time.
Well, I'll tell you, it helps. My dad was a grade 6 teacher. So now that he's retired, I said, Dad, here's your homework.
Now,
he's novels, right? So why not use him?
You're not a teacher yourself, I don't think, but I think you're a writing a coach of some sort. You mentioned that.
Yes.
Is that what you do in your real life away from writing?
Well, yes, and no. I also have a day job at University of Manitoba, St. John's College. I'm the registrar, which is long and convoluted. Mostly I work with students. parent and I love my day job. And then I'm also a writing success coach. So what I do is I work with writers who find themselves stuck, who are looking to break through that writer's block, break through the self-doubt really that's holding them back. Because really, people talk about writer's block, I think it's self-doubt. It can be just those moments where you're sitting and going, I just don't feel like writing, I'm going to watch TV instead. And to push beyond that, to take the writing more seriously, to make it a career. I know a lot of people who are professionally published, traditionally published, and the saying is so true. You have a lifetime to write the first book, and now you're lucky if you have a year to write the second. A lot of writers are getting contracts, and they have 6 months to write the second book. You can't sit around and say, oh, I don't feel like it. Oh, the kids are bothering me. You have to set all that stuff aside. You have to make time to write. You have to write in the car. You have to write in the plane. You can't just make sure that you have you're in your chair in your perfect little office. You have to be more flexible. So that's what I do is I help writers get to that point where they can make it that career so that they're ready when the contract comes to be able to produce that second book, to be producing that second book while their first one is out on submission, to even when they've got those book contracts and maybe they're not happy with the direction the editor wants to take it in, or maybe they're struggling with what the editor or what the publishing house might not be wanting to re-sign them. What do they do next? So I work with them to get to that point.
Now, you're not just working with people locally, I don't suppose you're working with people everywhere because online is easy. You're working with people.
Yeah, well, I have clients all over the place. I have one in Seattle right now. I have 2 from Alberta. I've had, from Texas, Arizona, all over the place. I love online communication. Skype, Google+, FaceTime. It's cheap. You don't have to be on the phone, and it's so it makes it free for me and also my clients. So that makes it an easy way to connect.
Yeah, I found it to be easy too. I mean, I've done a lot of that myself. Not just coaching, I've done lots of teaching online as well, which is great. You can teach 24 hours a day. And really, you're available and you can work at night and things. You're not constrained to go to a classroom and do all this stuff.
Yes.
So it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy over the next little while with Mabel and everything else, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, you are self-published, of course, but they get the books on Amazon and all these places, I guess?
Yeah, Amazon, Chapters, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Kindle, Nook, iBooks, Smashwords, they're all there.
And can people contact you directly for books as well?
Yes, they can. I have not yet had anybody do that, but they can.
Yeah, it is difficult to direct people to buy things from your own web sometimes. I mean, but Amazon and all the other places do a pretty good job. So, are the books, I suppose, is a final question I should ask you, are the Mabel books doing well? Are they selling nicely?
They are. I mean, they could always do better. I won't lie, but they are. They're doing well, and I think I know that the people who are reading them are enjoying them, and they're loving them, and they're connecting well with the characters, and that's what I love to see. I love it when I see people posting pictures of their kids reading them and not going to bed because they're too busy reading, or not eating their cereal because they're too busy reading my books. Makes my week.
Well, I think in the end, that's what it's all about. I think I know you live and die by sales and things like that, but I think in the end, what it really is all about is if you get an email, or better still, somebody in person tells you how much they've enjoyed the book, it's a wonderful thing. So,
yeah, I just wanted the money. I don't think I would bother trying to put a message in my books. I wouldn't write about social issues. Well, no, I wouldn't. I mean, I do because that's me, but I do that because I want to reach people. I write because I have something to say that I think people can benefit from. And that sounds really arrogant, but it's true. I think that's why all writers write, really, is we have something to say. And whether that's to entertain, to escape, or whatever. But really, if I was just worried more about sales, I would write really quick fluff pieces that people can devour in a day, but and there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's not me.
No, I think in the end, I think if you're busy writing, you usually can't stop writing. You keep getting ideas. You've got something to say, whether it's a social message, just an entertaining piece of writing. You've got something to say, and you can't stop doing it. So it sounds like things are going well. I'd like to thank you for coming on with us here today, and also I wish you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm sure we'll meet again online and in person on the circuit for a while. But
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for being with us, and we shall see you again, I'm sure, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.